Today we delve into the newly minted occult thriller, Exhuma, crafted by the talented mind of Jang Jae-hyun. But before we dive in, don't forget to engage with the channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your reaction to the video makes me motivated to make more videos. This cinematic gem has secured its place as the highest-grossing movie in South Korea to date. As the narrative unfolds, we find ourselves aboard a plane, where two shamans, Warem and her junior Bong-gil, embark on a journey to Los Angeles. At the airport, they are picked up by the accountant of a rich man named Park. He also says that Mr. Park is a Korean-American businessman, and his entire family had shifted to US years ago. They both go to a hospital instead of Mr. Park's resident. They meet Mr. Park's wife. The accountant explains the wife why these two shamans were in the hospital instead of their residence. She herself didn't believe in shaman and rituals, but she is ready to do anything for her kid. Warem examines their infant son. He was suffering from a mysterious illness and no treatment was useful for him. That's why Warem was called. Warem does some ritual and she could sense the presence of Park's father and grandfather. But Park's father had paralysis and his grandfather died a century ago. His body was buried in South Korea. Warem goes to Park's house and explains about herself. She also explains what shaman do, and how she deals with evil things. Park then explains to her that their firstborn always have health problems. His elder brother committed suicide in a hospital, and his wife miscarried and now his firstborn son is having health issues. He requests Warem to deal with the issue as soon as possible. Warem says that it's a grave's call that means the spirit of their grandfather is calling them for the grave in South Korea. Everything can be fixed but she will require more people. Then we see a man named Kim who is currently in Korea. We see that he is digging a grave with Mr. Young. Kim is a feng shui. Feng shui is a person that balances energy. Kim says that human has an integral relationship with soil. We consume food grown from soil and we later die and go back to soil. We again take rebirth from it and it's a never-ending cycle. Since 40 years his job is to find burial places for the dead people. He finds special places for people so that they could rest peacefully. Many people find it superstitious and others think it's a scam. But there were some people who had a complete faith on feng shui. We see that an old lady was buried on the ground, and the same lady was haunting her family members in their dreams. Young and Kim dig up her grave and discover that the lady's teeth were missing. Kim says that if someone takes things that belong to the dead person or if they don't provide the spirit the things they had previously promised, then the spirit would haunt them. And also if they don't perform the death rituals properly, then the spirit haunts the family members. Then they realize that her grandson had taken her false teeth for the sake of her memory. Kim returns it back to the old lady's casket. The case was then closed. Kim and Young goes to their house. We see Warem and Bong-gil comes to meet them. They tell Kim about the case of the rich man Park. They say that the issue is connected to the land of Korea, and they somehow have to fix it. Kim agrees to help Park. Scene then shifts to Park where his mother tells Mr. Park that they are going to dig their grandfather's grave. She says that their sister won't be happy with it. They don't believe in such superstition. She suggests that if they pray properly this issue could be solved, but Mr. Park was desperate about his son. He is very committed towards the process of exhumation. Mr. Park flies to South Korea and books a room in a hotel. He later meets Mr. Kim who needed more information about Mr. Park's grandfather. They have exhumed their grandfather's grave. Exhumation is the process of taking the dead body from one place and then burying it into another. It is performed in multiple steps and there is a proper paperwork that needs to be done. Mr. Park was very uncooperative and wants to finish everything fast. Seemed like he was in a hurry. He doesn't disclose any information about his grandfather. That was quite weird. Park came alone without his family member. Park takes Kim near his grandfather's grave. It was on the mountain. They even see foxes roaming around, which was quite weird as it was a bad omen. They get to the tombstone and Mr. Kim realized that the tombstone didn't have any names written on it, but had numbers and incantation on it. Mr. Kim finds it weird. It seemed as though no one wanted the grave to be discovered. It seemed like the family didn't want to disclose that the grave belonged to Park's family. Mr. Kim asks Park more information about the grave. Park says that his grandfather did many things for his country, so this place was chosen as his burial site as a sign of respect. This place was suggested to them by a monk named Jisoo. Kim then asks if the tomb is royal, then why is so simple? Park says that during those days there were many grave robbers, so as to protect his grandfather's grave, they had to make it look simple so there was no name. It was very weird. Kim was having a hard time believing it. Kim then goes back. Warem and other people ask him so many questions. Kim replied that this place is very unacceptable, there should be something else placed on the grave. It is very inappropriate because he can sense the presence of evil entity at the place. It's very powerful. He also says that he won't be able to do it, because if he touches anything from this place he could lose his life. They all return back home. Kim and Park were sitting together. While talking, Kim tells Park about his daughter, whom he loves very much, and soon she is getting married. After hearing that, Park gets emotional and says that he too have a son whom he is going to leave soon. He requests Kim to save him. Warem suggests that they should dig the grave but with protection ritual guarding the evil energy. Kim then agrees to it. Next day, everyone returns back to the grave. Grandfather's daughter also comes with them. She too was required for the permission to dig the grave. Warem brings the necessary things for the rituals. That included 5 dead pigs. She goes near the grave and applies a protection charm on the 5 men that are going to dig the grave. The ritual was very brutal. Warem was dancing vigorously. She cuts the pig's body and drinks their blood. They complete the digging. Trust me, it was very difficult to watch. They find the body but it had things written on it, but Kim couldn't understand it. They had planned to burn the skeleton of the grandfather as they believed that the spirit was now connected to the bones. So if they destroy the bones they could easily get rid of the spirit. Then the spirit could rest in peace. While placing the soil back into the grave, one of the workers sees a weird snake with human head. He slices the snake's head but the snake screams like a human. Triggers a bad omen. Suddenly the sky becomes cloudy. Kim says that they should stop the cremation for today. Park agrees. They shift the coffin onto a board. Kim wants to help the family but he had many doubts about the family. Kim then goes to a village near the mountain to inspect about Jisoo. He learns that there was a different old monk in the temple. They have no idea about Jisoo, which was very weird. An unnamed tomb, a weird-looking snake, a mysterious monk. They also get to know that the casket was filled with riches. There was a ward boy who knew about it and grew greedy, so he opens the casket. We see the angry spirit of grandfather. The spirit takes over the body of the ward boy. Warem witnesses that. Warem then starts a ritual to return the body into the casket. The spirit first goes to its house. It was hungry and thirsty. Its death rituals were also not done properly, so it kills the son and daughter-in-law first in Los Angeles. It haunts Park. But the spirit was very weak, so it couldn't enter the house through door and window without permission. It starts haunting mentally. Kim calls Park and tells him that Park is seeking revenge as he wants to make them pay as they didn't perform death rites properly and didn't give yearly praying to the spirit. He shifted to America. Kim also warns him not to leave his house and he is coming to rescue him. Then suddenly we hear a knocking on the door. He hears Kim screaming at him to open the door. It was very weird that he was on phone with Kim, and again Kim was banging on the door. The Kim on the door keeps on yelling at Park to open the door, and Kim on the phone tells Park that it is the same evil spirit that is making him open the door, so don't let him in, but he can open the window. But we all know he shouldn't have done that. Mr. Park opens the window. We later get to see that the Kim on the door was real, who was there to rescue him, but the Kim on the window was the evil spirit. Kim takes the help of the housekeeping staff and opens the door to Park's room. He enters the room but he finds Park possessed. It was then later revealed how Park family became rich. During Korea-Japanese War, Park's family took the side of Japan and betrayed Korea, so they became very rich. The grandfather's spirit destroys Mr. Park's body, as the entire family didn't respect the grandfather but were happily using grandfather's money. Before taking his final breath, it seemed like he was trying to say something, but the evil spirit destroys his body. Before dying, Mr. Park says something cryptic, that a fox broke the spine of a tiger by stabbing. Kim couldn't understand it. Warem was doing the rituals and the grandfather's spirit possesses the body of Bong Gil. The spirit was very strong and powerful and goes to the grandson. He was planning to kill the infant. We also get to understand that the body of the spirit gets more powerful with every death. Seemed like he was getting his body back. Kim instructs Warem and Young to create the body so that the spirit could be destroyed. Spirit is connected to the skeletal remains. For that he had to get permission from the daughter of Mr. Park, as she was the only sole heir of the family. Rest all were killed. Mr. Kim requests the daughter that the kid did nothing wrong, and they must cremate the body to save the kid. She agrees and gives permission. They burn the coffin, and the spirit gets freedom. Everyone gets relieved, but to our dismay, it was only the beginning of misery. The spirit was not haunting the family because of the disrespect, but it was for something else. Later Kim gets to know about a worker that was there to dig the grave of Mr. Park, and he was in a bad state. He goes to meet the worker. He finds the worker in a state of fear. He says that he sees snake in his dream. Snakes haunt him, and it started after he killed the snake. Mr. Kim goes to the graveyard and finds the same snake beheaded. It seemed like the snake was female. They are called Ona and are very evil. Some of them even call them good as she helps them with forest spirit. Kim even digs further and discovers a coffin. He gets shocked. He then calls Warim and Bongil to the scene. They dig the coffin and they wonder why someone buried the coffin below the coffin of the grandfather. The weird thing was the coffin was buried vertically. What was inside the coffin was also a mystery. They meet the same old man that they have met previously. Mr. Kim asks him the permission to keep the coffin there till tomorrow. Warim performs rituals and places a protection circle around it. They also ask the daughter why the body of grandfather was buried above the standing coffin. The daughter had no idea. He has betrayed his country and favored Japanese. Maybe he was buried there as a punishment. Then the daughter reveals a secret. Jisoo was not a Korean but was Japanese. Why would someone bury the guy that worked in their favor in such a bad burial? Kim says that the number encrypted on the tombstone were coordinates. The daughter had no idea about it. They had only shown interest toward the grandfather's money. They didn't care about the things that their grandfathers did. The old man hears some noise coming from the coffin. We notice Bongil that was wide awake. We see the old man was on top of Bongil and was murmuring something. Bongil gets rid of it by chanting some spells. He goes to check on the old man. But the old man wasn't in his room. He goes to the barn and sees a 7-feet-long figure devouring the old man and the pig by tearing them. He was petrified, so he calls Warim. Warim was asking for her grandmother's guidance, who was a great shaman of her time. She hears Bongil's scream and was about to go to his rescue, but her grandmother's spirit stops her, as she was aware about the risk of going inside. Warim and Bongil goes to seize the coffin, which was torn apart from its backside. The giant figure must have torn it and freed itself. The coffin had a helmet that looked like it belonged to a samurai. It seemed like the giant was a Japanese samurai. Bongil goes to call everyone, but the same Gant figure appears at the door. It asks who is inside the room. Is it a human? Warim gets scared and kneels herself in front of it. She pretends to be a tree spirit and says that she isn't a human. She is his servant. The figure asks if she has brought his favorite foods, melons and sweet fish. Warim didn't have anything, so she apologizes. But the figure realizes that she is a human and attacks her. Bongil goes to gets in between the figure and Warim and stabs the figure. The stab didn't affect the figure. It seemed like it was very evil, strong entity. It tears the belly of Bongil and throws Hae-jin. He was torn from his liver's side. It was also significant, which we will discuss later. The demon starts moving towards Warim, but Young and Kim also arrived there. They both were shit scared as they had never seen something like this before in their life. The samurai was about to kill Warim, but he hears the chicken rooster sounds that signified that the morning was near. Samurai converts itself to a ball of fire and flies. The people standing there get some visions that had his story. It meant that the demon's element was fire. It can't use its power in daylight, but is immensely powerful at night. Bongil was then taken to a hospital. He was very critical. Warim was very upset about it as Bongil was always with her. He used to say that as long as Warim was beside him, no one could hurt him, as she would always protect her. Kim apologizes as he was the one who dragged them into it. Kim goes to look at the grave as it all started from there. He thinks everything starts and ends from the same place. He then goes to the old man's house who told them about grave robbers. There he finds the belongings of grave robbers. The grave robbers used to follow Taoism. They followed the principle that stated that some things are opposite one another, like yin and yang, metal and wood. In hospital, Warim wakes up Bongil. He was possessed. He was now a servant of the samurai. Bongil kept on saying that the samurai was guarding something on the grave. It meant that the grave had something more. Both the figure and grandfather was placed to protect something else. Kim then digs the grave more. He again finds the same 7-feet-long monster sleeping. He was connected to the place. He could travel anywhere during the night but has to return to the same place during day. He has to return to the place with the coordinates. He was guarding something else. Last words said my park before dying was that the fox stabbed the waist and tore the spine of tiger. Fox represented the Jisoo. Map of Korea looks like tiger, so it meant that Jisoo had placed multiple rods like weapon on the grounds of Korea. These were meant to destroy Korea. It made the energies falling on Korean land to disturb the balance. That's why war broke and they have South and North Korea. Even the coffin were placed in such a way that the grandfather's coffin made the horizontal arm of letter T, and the samurai's coffin made the vertical arm of letter T. T meant stabbing in the back or waist. And the story about graves robbers weren't about robber, but they were about the Korean patriots who were digging for these rods and were destroying them, so that the energy of Korea can be restored to balance, and the war could be stopped. They took out all the rods but they couldn't find one rod. It was buried under the inscription. That's why Jisoo had buried grandfather's grave, as it was royal and no one would dare to touch it. And it would be safe. Even if someone digs it, there was a backup plan. It was the samurai soldier that was guarding the place. Hwarim then leave her sister to care for Bong-gil and protect him with spells. The demon could return at night and again possess Bong-gil. Previously the devil couldn't easily possess his Bong-gil, as his body had Buddhism symbols drawn in it. All three of them, Young, Kim and Hwarim, draw the same incantation in their body with ink. Hwarim devises a plan to distract the devil and tells Kim and Young to dig the rod and destroy it with horse blood. But they kept on digging deeper and deeper, but they couldn't find the rod. The devil tells Hwarim that it's a war. He starts telling Hwarim about the war, what Jisoo did. But the devil realizes that it's a trap. The devil attacks Hwarim, but her grandmother's spirit saves her. It is believed that the ancestor spirit protect their own land, and the samurai was a foreigner, so he left Hwarim alone as a sign of respect. The samurai's spirit goes to the grave and attacks on Kim. Kim was badly injured. Hwarim rushes towards him and pours horse blood on the samurai. The samurai was burning from it, but for some time only. The samurai then starts choking Kim and Young. We then see Bong-gil was possessed by the devil. Kim then gets the samurai's vision. Now we get the plot of the entire story. We understand how Jisoo, Rod and the samurai were connected to each other. In his vision, Kim sees that Jisoo was dressed like a fox. Jisoo wasn't an ordinary man. It was a powerful shaman spirit. Jisoo knew that everyone discovered the rod that disturbs the balance of Korea. He was against the development of Korea, so he devised a plan. He took the body of a samurai of the war and converts him to an enema, which is cold, evil ghost. Different body parts were used and a katana was set on fire and was inserted into the neck of the samurai. It was hidden there. It had negative spirit of 10,000 spirit. They all died a very painful death and was buried. The rod was in the samurai's body itself. The samurai's body was the final rod, as it had that katana. In Taoism, it was believed that if we merge the opposite side, then it will destroy the thing itself. Kim then takes his own blood and applies on the stick and stabs the samurai. Samurai's element was metal fused with fire, so the final rods gets destroyed and the ghost also gets destroyed. Bong-gil's possession also gets withdrawn. I don't know if you guys remember or not, human-headed snake was a symbol of water. We all know that water, fire, earth, metal creates a balance. When the man digging the grave killed the snake, the balance was destroyed. That's when Samurai woke up and was haunting the man that killed the snake. Samurai had metal, as in katana, and to destroy it wood and water was required. Coordinates was placed to guide the samurai to the same place before daylight. Grandfather's grave was placed above the body of Samurai, as he was royal and no one would dig it. So the rod was safe. Katana was the rod that was blocking the energy of Korea. In the ending, we see the four of them having food. They also attend the wedding of Kim's daughter. Then the movie ends. So let's summarize the story. During Japan-Korea War in late 1590s, grandfather and his ancestors betrayed their own country and supported the Japanese. They destroyed Korea from the inside. That's why they became so powerful and rich. But when Japan knew that the war won't last long, so they devised a plan to destroy Korea forever. So they placed rods with the help of Jisoo. But the patriots of Korea destroyed every other rod. That's why Jisoo created the evil spirit of samurai to guard the katana. The coffin were placed with T-shaped, as it represented a stabbing on back and waist, like the Japan did to Korea by stabbing them on the spine with rods. The reason why grandfather was killing his offspring wasn't because of incomplete death ritual, but he was scared of the samurai and was worried that his offspring might dig his grave and turn into samurai servants. So as to protect them from the samurai, he was killing his offspring. And about that female snake with human head. Maybe it was a normal snake, but as it started digging deeper, it bumped into grandfather's coffin, which was difficult to penetrate, so it went more deep into the samurai's grave and was transformed into the evil entity by the negative energy. And the same snake, when it was killed by the digging man, started a chain of events that awakened the samurai. Bong-gil also had wounds from stomach to spine that represented the war between Japan and Korea. How the grandfather's family betrayed his own family. And when Bong-gil was torn from liver side, maybe samurai was stabbed from his liver's side too. His element was fire, so he could easily transform into fire and disappear. It was the katana which had the 1,000 spirit of people that was the devil and not the samurai. I hope I could explain the movie in detail. Hope you like the video. Feel free to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.